Hey there, life editors! Welcome to another one of our weekly live streams here on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right, for those of you who are new, let me introduce myself. I'm Sage Grayson, and I'm a former book editor turned life coach. I help ambitious women edit their habits, routines, and mindsets to balance their happiness at work and home. I'm a life editor, and so are you. So every week we jump onto this live stream, and this is your chance to ask me any questions you might have about life editing or self-development or business strategies. And you can always leave a comment below. I see all the comments that come in. And even if you're watching the replay weeks later, months later, go ahead and leave a comment because I would love to keep this conversation going. So I definitely take your suggestions to heart. If you have a specific topic about life editing that you want to talk about, or if there's just something topical on your mind, leave a comment and let me know because I love hearing your ideas. So today we have a very fun topic, and we're going to talk about something that I know you don't get enough of. I know you don't get enough of this stuff because I don't get enough of it either. I have not met anyone who gets enough of this. And what are we talking about? We're talking about self-care. Yeah, I think all of us could use more self-care in our lives, especially now when there's so much going on, when the world feels like it's too full of information, when things are disrupting our schedule, when it's just hard to get up in the morning. We definitely need more self-care. So self-care goes along with step 5 of my life editing process. And for those of you who are new to life editing, I have a 5-step process that helps you edit your life the same way a book editor edits a manuscript. See, that's my deal. So step 5 is make white space for personal self-care. White space is another term for self-care. And in book editing, it is literally the white space on a printed page where there is no text and no images. It gives the reader's eyes a place to relax. So white space in your life is where you get to relax and recharge. So people tend to forget about self-care because we're all caught up in whatever's going on in the world, whatever we need to do for our businesses, for our jobs, for our families, and we forget about ourselves. But it is so important for us to have self-care if we want to be of service to anyone else in the world. You can't be the best employee or mom or leader or whatever if you're not taking care of yourself first. So I have 4 reasons why we need self-care. But before we do that, I want to make sure, even if you're watching this at home or later, whatever, make sure you have a notepad or something to collect your notes from today's call, because I want you, by the end of this call, to be able to design your simple self-care routine. You're going to design your own simple self-care routine. We're going to keep this simple. I'm not going to go spend thousands of dollars and go to some resort somewhere, or go get a massage every single day or whatever, and spend tons and tons of money on self-care. I want this to be really streamlined. That's what we do in life editing. We take out all the nonsense and we just focus on the basics. So you're going to design your simple self-care routine. Okay, so here are 4 reasons why we need self-care, in case you want to argue about it. So number 1, pretty obviously, we need self-care to recharge our energy. You need to fill your cup. We do so much during the day that drains our energy, like dealing with your nosy coworkers, or your kids are very needy and they need stuff from you all day long. Or you are battling some kind of health issue or whatever, or you've got to deal with family drama, or you looked at the news when you knew you shouldn't have been doom scrolling, you shouldn't have looked, but you looked, and that can definitely drain your energy. So number 1, we need self-care to recharge our batteries. It is essential for us to be able to continue doing the good work that we're going to put out into the world. So number 1, recharge your batteries. Number 2, self-care gives our minds a chance to shift out of work mode into relaxation, personal time mode. So we need to have that differentiation between work and home. Now, I say this in my elevator pitch or my motto for my business is that I help you balance your happiness at work and home. And you need to do this yourself too. So you have this work, whatever your work is, whether it's a corporate job or whether you have run a business or whether you do some kind of volunteer work or whatever things you put out into the world. You have some kind of work that you do. And then you have your personal life. You have things that are separate from work. And those could be your hobbies, your interests, things that light you up inside. And maybe some of you need to add more things because you can't think of anything for your personal time. You need self-care to shift from work mode to your personal life. Self-care can be like that decompression spot. I know a lot of people who complain about a commute where they have to drive to work and then drive back every day. And they complain about it, being like, oh, I wish I didn't have to drive. But when you really talk to them about it, they actually love their commute because it's a built-in decompression time. When they're in the car, that's their time to like, woo, let all of the stresses from work flow out of them. They can sing in the car, they can listen to podcasts, whatever. There's no kids grabbing onto them or yelling at them or anything. And that's their time just to be with themselves. So people who have a commute have built-in self-care. They have the built-in break between work mode and personal life. So if you don't have that, we're going to talk about that today, about how you can build in some of that decompression time so you're not always in work mode or you're not always in me mode. Make sense? Okay, so that's number 2. Self-care gives our minds a chance to shift from work mode to personal life. All right, number 3, reason that we need self-care is not actually for us, it's for others. It's to be a good example to other people. Really? I know you might wonder about this, like, really, I need self-care so I can be a good example to other people. Absolutely. So those of you who are moms, you 100% know this, that if you don't take care of yourself, how can you expect your kids to grow up taking care of themselves? Like if you don't shower for days, or you complain all the time, or you're just eating junk food all the time, or you never do anything for yourself, you just kind of plop on the couch, that's not being a very good role model to your kids. But if you take care of yourself, and you have good hygiene, and you indulge in hobbies, and you do things that make you happy, you have friends, and you build up your self-care routine, you're going to be a great example to your kids. They're going to remember what you did, and they're going to think, oh, I can be good to myself too. I don't have to be everything to everyone at all times. I can take some time for myself. You having a good self-care routine teaches other people to have boundaries in their lives, to have a break between the demands of the world and what they want for themselves. So even if you don't have kids, I don't have kids, you can still be a good example to others. So I'm a good example to my clients and my followers, or be a good example to the people that you work with. So like if you do work in a corporate office building, I remember many years ago, more than a decade ago, when I was a book editor, and I worked in big corporate office in downtown Chicago. And I remember I always break my full hour lunch break away from my desk. And either I ate in the cafeteria, or I walked around the city, or I went shopping, or I listened to podcasts or whatever. I took it away from my desk. And that kind of like blew the minds of the people in my department. They're like, what do you mean you're not eating at your desk? First of all, eating at your desk is gross. If your manager walks by and you're like eating pasta or a big old sandwich over your keyboard, like gross. How unprofessional is that? Do not eat at your desk. Don't do that. You're better than that. Always take your lunch break away from where you work. Even if your lunch break is only 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever you got, take it away from where you work. And that will teach the people around you that you value yourself enough to do something good for yourself. And it will help them remember that they need to take care of themselves too. I remember after many months of me taking my lunch away from my desk, other people in the department started eating away from their desks too. And some even joined me, some even joined me for lunch. And that was great that people were valuing themselves enough to take a proper break during their day. So that is number 3. When you take care of yourself and you do your self-care routine, you're going to be a good example to others. All right. And the 4th reason, which we kind of touched on already, the 4th reason that you need self-care is because it helps you treat yourself with respect. Yeah. If you don't have any kind of a self-care routine, even if it's a little bitty self-care routine, it's 10 minutes of self-care, that's treating yourself with respect. It's saying that I am worthy of being kind to myself, of being good to my body, good to my mental health. And by treating yourself with respect, you're going to have more confidence. And that confidence is going to come through in whatever you do, whatever work that you put out into the world. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to be more capable, and you'll be able to help more people because you took care of yourself. So treat yourself with respect. You're absolutely worthy of it. Okay, so let's recap that right now. Here are 4 reasons why you and me and everyone here, we all need self-care. Number 1, to recharge our energy. Number 2, to give our minds a chance to shift from work mode to personal life. Number 3, to be a good example to others. And number 4, to treat ourselves with respect. Yes. Leave a comment and let me know which one of those 4 reasons is your predominant reason for wanting to create some kind of simple self-care routine. And it's okay if your reason is extrinsic versus intrinsic. We've talked about this before. So an extrinsic reason to do something is because your kids or your spouse or society as a whole is telling you to do it. An intrinsic reason to do something is because it's coming from inside you. You want to do it for you. So maybe you want to create a self-care routine to be a good example to your kids. That's an extrinsic reason. And that's okay. That is still okay. Maybe you want to create a self-care routine because there's this little voice inside of you that's been telling you that you need to care for yourself better. That's intrinsic. And you can have both extrinsic and intrinsic reasons to do something in your life. But I will say this, that if you want lasting results or something that's going to stick around for the long haul, you must find that inner reason, that intrinsic reason to do something. Okay, so leave a comment, even if you're watching the replay later, which one of those reasons is your predominant reason to create a self-care routine? I would say for me as a business owner, and this might be the same for you if you're a business owner, I definitely need that divide between work and home. And a lot of times when you work from home or you run your own business and your boss, a lot of that can like overlap and it gets a little muddy in there. But I definitely need self-care. So I have that break between work and my personal life. Okay, so now you know why you need self-care. Let's talk about the kind of self-care you should be focusing on. Because it might be really easy to be like, okay, I need self-care. I'm going to go sit on the couch and watch The Office for 5 hours now. That's my self-care. I'm going to order a pizza too. No, not exactly. That's not actually self-care. And you might think about, well, I'm caring for myself. That's what I want. That's not self-care. So let me explain to you the difference between self-care and self-comfort, which it's often confused for. So self-care, anything that is a self-care activity, gives you energy. It literally cares for you. It replenishes you, recharges your battery, it fills your cup. So your self-care things might be different than some other people, but think about what activities give you energy. So that might be reading or enjoying a hobby. For some of you, it might be playing sports or exercising. Dancing, for me, dancing and singing real loud, that gives me energy. It might be quality time with a loved one. All of those things can give you energy. On the other hand, self-comfort activities numb you out. And self-comfort activities prevent you from actually facing the problems in your life. So a self-comfort activity might be binge watching shows for hours and hours and hours. So you don't have to think about your work. So you don't have to think about how your boss yelled at you. So you don't have to think about whatever it is that's bothering you. It could also be binge eating, where you just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. So you don't have to think about your emotions. You just push them down with food. You're just ignoring the whole world, ignoring what it's doing to your body, ignore what it's doing to your mental health. Other self-numbing, self-comfort activities would be sleeping too much and avoiding the world. Also, indulging in drugs and alcohol, definitely self-comfort activities. So think about that. There might be something that you do regularly thinking, oh, I'm getting my self-care here, but it's actually self-comfort. It's numbing you out so you don't have to face your problems, so you don't actually have to do any self-development work with yourself. And by the end of it, you don't have any more energy. So think about that. If you do self-care, it gives you energy, like reading a great book or having a meaningful conversation, or exercising. It gives you energy by the end of it. And you're like, yeah, I feel really good about myself. But self-comfort, you don't have any extra energy at the end. In fact, you might even have less energy. So if you're binge watching shows and eating junk food for hours, how do you feel at the end of that? Pretty bad, right? Yeah, that's how you know it's self-comfort and not self-care. Here's the thing about self-care. Self-care activities, though they give you energy and replenish you, they may be challenging. A lot of times with self-care, you're looking inward and you're doing some of the hard work that maybe you haven't let yourself do in the past. So you might be journaling and doing some kind of self-development prompts. You might be meditating, and oh boy, for those of you who are meditators like me, you know a lot of stuff rises to the surface when you're meditating. You might just be sitting quiet with yourself or going on walks with yourself without blasting music in your ears. And a lot of times some kind of uncomfortable thoughts might come up. You might realize, oh, I need to cut out that toxic friend, or oh, maybe I need to work on my marriage, or oh, I'm really not treating my body well, or whatever it might be, or maybe I need another job. So sometimes when you're doing self-care, though it gives you energy and it's good for you, it may be challenging. You may be met with some obstacles or things you actually have to work on. But that's the thing with self-care. You're not hiding from those things. You're actually looking at your problems, looking at those challenges head on. So let's go back to self-comfort. Self-comfort, though it feels good in the moment, it's actually delaying your suffering. So you're going to get sick and you're going to get burned out if you don't actually do self-care, if you don't give yourself time to recharge. So if self-care, doing those things that give you energy, feels too daunting and you're focusing on self-comfort, I'm going to eat all this junk food, I'm going to watch TV shows, I'm going to scroll through social media for hours on end. By the end of that, you're going to feel sick, you're going to be burned out, you're not going to have any more energy. So how is that going to make you want to do your good work, whatever your good work is? So I hope this is really clear for you, the difference between self-care and self-comfort. And I want you to choose self-care activities that give you energy, that challenge you, that make you into a better person. I want you to choose those self-care activities 90% of the time. Because let's be honest here. Yes, of course, there are going to be times you're going to flop on the couch and not want to do anything, or you're feeling sick and you just want to scroll through Instagram. I totally get it. But let's make that itty bitty 10% of your time. Spend most of your time on self-care activities. Okay, so when you're setting up your simple self-care routine, remember 90% of the stuff must be self-care activities that give you energy and replenish you. Okay, so when you're looking at your schedule, where does self-care fit in? Oh, before we move on, I do want to ask you, do you find the things that you call self-care in your life, are they really self-care or are they self-comfort? Leave a comment and let me know. Even if you're watching this replay later, do you tend to do more self-care or self-comfort things? Like me, because I'm aware of it as a coach, I'm constantly shifting myself back to self-care. Like, nope, I'm going to read. I'm not going to scroll through social media, or I'm going to go exercise and do something good for me, or I'm going to have that conversation, even if it's tough, whatever it is, I'm going to do those self-care things. But let me know about you. Is this the first time you've heard about the difference between self-care and self-comfort? And what is your go-to activity when you feel like you need time for yourself? Okay, moving on. Let's figure out where you can put self-care in your schedule, because I really want to make sure that you're doing self-care every day you possibly can. Okay, so here are some examples. And depending on your schedule and your lifestyle, this may or may not work for you, but just choose the ones that you can edit to fit into your schedule. So maybe, like most people, you're going to start the day with some kind of self-care routine. This is amazing if you have the time and space to do it. Starting your day with self-care really puts you on the right track. It sets the foundation for your whole rest of your day. So it could be showering, it could be wearing a great outfit, it could be doing some kind of stretching or exercising, it could be eating a nutritious breakfast, it could be meditating, reading, whatever. All of those are great ideas for your morning routine. Leave a comment and let me know, do you do self-care in the morning to set yourself up for the day? I notice 100% if I do my morning self-care routine, I have a really good day. And even if I do have problems, I'm able to overcome them easier. But if I'm rushed and I don't do my self-care routine, I'm struggling. I'm struggling the rest of the day. So please make sure that you're doing something good for yourself in the morning to set the stage for the day. Okay, so if you don't have a lot of time in the morning, or you have to get up super early for your job or whatever, how about doing self-care at night? So you can plan the night before. So what types of things can you do at night so you'll have a better day the next day? Maybe that is like packing your lunch or making your lunch ahead of time. Maybe laying out the clothes that you need, or laying out any kind of like makeup or supplies you might need so you can get through your routine quickly in the morning. Maybe it's looking at your to-do list and picking like your top 3 priorities for the day. So you don't wake up wondering like, what am I supposed to be doing? You've already planned it out. You know what you're going to be doing the next day. Definitely looking at your calendar and seeing if you have any type of appointments or anything where you're sharing resources like a car with somebody else in your family, just to make sure that there's no surprises. So planning and doing some kind of self-care the night before can be really, really great. Okay. Here's another one that's really popular with my clients, is doing self-care breaks throughout the day. So kind of dividing your day up in little mini self-care breaks. A lot of my clients use the Pomodoro technique, which is working for 25 minutes, taking a 5-minute break, working for 25 minutes, taking a 5-minute break all day long. And you can set a timer, an interval timer on your phone to do that for you. And during those 5-minute breaks, it's just like little bursts of self-care. So they might do some stretching or make a cup of tea or go walk around the neighborhood or play with their dogs, whatever. So maybe that works better for you. If you can't devote like a chunk of time in the morning or a chunk of time in the evening for self-care, maybe break up your self-care throughout the day. It's kind of like a nice little treat to motivate you to keep doing your work. Because you know, I've only got to do 25 minutes of work and then I get to read for 5 minutes. Or I only need to do 25 minutes of work and then I get my favorite tea as a reward. Something like that. Leave a comment and let me know. If you've only got 5 minutes for self-care, what's your favorite type of self-care? What can you like indulge in 5 minutes and that really makes you feel good, feel energized for your next Pomodoro sprint? Okay. Then another idea for self-care is to do certain self-care right before bed so that you have really restorative sleep. I definitely recommend doing some kind of gratitude practice right before bed. Because what do we do normally right before bed? We go over all the things that went wrong during the day, all the things we didn't get to, all of the nasty things that people said to us. And then we wonder why we have bad night's sleep because we're thinking about all this awful stuff right before we go to sleep. So instead, wipe the slate clean and do some good self-care right before bed. So maybe either writing in your gratitude journal, if you have a partner, sharing the best part of your day with each other right before you go to sleep, maybe cuddling your pet, reading some poetry, or listening to a meditation. I do like listening to meditations or some kind of like ambient noise right as I'm going to sleep to calm myself down. Leave a comment and let me know. What do you do to make sure that you have good sleep? Or have you not figured that out yet? I know some of my clients like to do all of their hygiene stuff at night, take a nice bath, put on their fancy lotion, wash their hair, all of that good stuff, paint their nails, so that they go to bed feeling luxurious and well cared for. And the final tip that I want to talk about for figuring out where self-care belongs in your schedule is to get your loved ones involved. A lot of times we don't do our self-care because we're taking care of other people, because your kids might need you, or your spouse might need you, or your boss might need you, or whatever. You're pulled in all these directions and your health and your self-care gets pushed to the bottom. So I want you to actively talk to the people around you and tell them that you need self-care and you're going to take time for this. So like when I was in corporate, I told everyone, I'm going to eat my lunch away from my desk. It's my lunch break. This is what I'm doing for my self-care. So maybe you need to create some kind of boundary and tell people what you're doing for your self-care. If you are at home, maybe you need to tell your kids, mommy needs 30 minutes to herself at night, or mommy needs 30 minutes in the morning before she gets you guys breakfast or whatever it might be. Or tell your spouse that if you come home from work, like really stressed out and you need time for yourself, you need to go exercise by yourself before you dive into all the family stuff. Tell them that. So really get your loved ones and the people around you involved so that you can stick to your schedule. I don't want you backsliding because you're putting other people's needs ahead of your needs. All right, so let me just recap that real quick. Figuring out where self-care is going to fit in your schedule. You might start with the morning routine, or you might do some kind of nighttime routine. You might do a lot of planning the night before so that you have an easy peasy time during the day. You might take 5-minute breaks throughout your day and split it up. You might do some kind of gratitude practice before bed so that you have restorative sleep. And definitely get your loved ones and the people around you to honor your schedule. Set those boundaries because your self-care is so, so important. All right, leave a comment and let me know if you have any idea where you're going to put self-care in your schedule. Me, I'm a morning person, no surprise. So I always do my self-care in the morning, but that may or may not work for you. All right. Now, before you go off and design your simple self-care routine, I have some other tips for you. Now, your self-care routine must be flexible. We're life editors. We are all about editing things. And sometimes you might have one routine that works for a while, but then things change and you need to change it up too. Maybe your work hours change, or your kids are older and you have more time, or maybe you either get sick or something, you're on different medication or whatever. You need to be open to changing your self-care routine and being flexible with it. Okay, so when you're looking at your self-care routine, I want you to ask yourself, what's good enough? What's good enough? Don't make it too rigid. So if you don't have time for 2 hours of self-care in the morning and you're going to go run 3 miles every single day and you're going to eat organic, like homemade meals every single day, if you can do that, good for you. I don't know many people who can do that. So what's good enough? What is good enough for you? So what's the bare minimum that's still giving you energy, still indulging in self-care, but is not too over the top? That is not like best case scenario, but what's the everyday scenario? I know, moving into my next point, I want you to get a little creative about the time that you spend on your self-care. Many of my Life Editor Academy ladies are doing what's called a miracle morning. And I will leave a link below this video. The Miracle Morning is a book about a morning routine that many, many people have adopted. And it goes along with the acronym SAVERS. So S is silence, A is affirmations, V is visioning, E is exercise, R is reading, and S is scribing, which actually means writing, but they needed an S. So SAVERS: silence, affirmations, visioning, exercise, reading, and scribing. And what you're supposed to do in the ideal miracle morning is do 10 minutes for each one. So 10 minutes for silence, 10 minutes of saying affirmations, 10 minutes of visioning and imagining your ideal life, 10 minutes of exercise, 10 minutes of reading something powerful or something inspirational, and then 10 minutes of writing, whether that's like morning pages where you just let your thoughts flow and do a brain dump, or any other kind of like reading it, or any other kind of writing. I know many of my clients are writing books, so something like that, which is great because then it fills an entire hour. Do you have an hour for your morning routine? I don't. I don't. But I mean, people are like, well, that's the goal. The goal is to have a whole hour. If it doesn't work for you, you can always adjust it. You don't need to throw it out. Be like, well, I can't do a miracle morning because I don't have enough time. You do. You can adjust it to fit your schedule. How about a miracle morning where you're doing just 1 minute of each of those? That still counts. You're still going to feel different and energized by the end. So 1 minute of silence, 1 minute of going over affirmations, 1 minute of visioning or looking at your vision board, 1 minute of exercise. That could just be stretching or a few yoga poses. 1 minute of reading. That could be reading an article online or reading a page of a book that you're reading, or 1 minute of writing. That is definitely enough time to write in your gratitude journal or to make a list of a few things you need to do and just brain dump it out of your head. So even a 6-minute miracle morning still counts. So I'm definitely pushing that on my Life Editor Academy members who are doing the miracle morning, is that give yourself permission to do a shorter miracle morning if you don't have an entire hour. All right. Next, looking at your self-care routine, I want you to think about what can you do now versus what can you do later. So maybe you have a lot of different things you want to build into your self-care routine, but you just don't have the time, space, or energy for it right now. I know a lot of moms need to adjust their self-care routine based on when their kids are in school or not. So maybe in the summer, things are a little more loosey-goosey and you can have more time for your self-care routine. But in the fall, when the kids are back in school, whether they're homeschool, distance learning, or they go to school, and you need to get everyone out of the house in the morning, excuse me, you need to adjust your self-care routine. Maybe you need to shorten it up so you can make sure that everyone's got their bags and their books and everything's out the door on the right time. So think about that. What can you do now versus what can you do later? Or maybe now you can exercise outside because the weather's nice. You can go walk around the neighborhood a few times a day. But in the winter, there's going to be snow on the ground and it's going to be really uncomfortable and awful. So maybe you need to adjust your exercise to do it inside then. Leave a comment and let me know. Do you find yourself adjusting your self-care routine throughout the year? And what are kind of like the triggers that make you reevaluate your self-care routine? What do you know? You're going to do this now, but I'm going to do this later. All right. And then the final tip that I have for coming up with your simple self-care routine and making it flexible is, how are your personal needs shifting? How are your personal needs shifting? So maybe you have a lot going on at work and you need to really bump up your self-care because you'll be feeling much, much more drained than usual. Or maybe you're going through something, or you're grieving, or something happened in your family, and you really need to honor that and give yourself more time and space during the day to recharge, to journal, to meditate, to focus on dealing with some of those emotions and working through them. So as you go through life, remember, we're editors, we're always editing. You're going to edit your self-care routine based on your personal needs and how your life is shifting. All right, so let's recap that. Flexible ways to keep your self-care routine flexible as your life is changing. So don't make it too rigid. Focus on what's good enough. Try the miracle morning. I know a lot of people like that, but adjust it. You don't need to do a full hour. You can do 6 minutes and that still counts. Then think about what can you do now versus what can you do later, based on people's schedules, based on the weather, based on lots of things. And then how are your needs shifting? And sometimes you're going to need more self-care and sometimes you can get away with less. All right. So I've got some homework for you, life editors, and I hope you got a lot of notes taken from today's call. I want you to figure out where self-care can fit into your schedule and make your simple self-care routine. And then I would love it if you would come back and leave a comment under this video and let me know, how did you schedule your self-care? Are you doing a morning routine or are you a night person? I know some of you are like, Sage, you're too chipper in the morning. You got to do my nighttime routine. Well, let me know, what do you do leading up to bedtime so that you have a really good night's sleep? Is there something that gives you energy and it's your self-care, but maybe your friend, it drains their energy and they don't like that. It doesn't give them energy. So I would love to hear what types of things give you energy. And then if you're having trouble with self-comfort, you're relying on self-comfort to numb yourself out, let's brainstorm. Let's come up with some other ideas so that you're not sitting on the couch, that you're not binge eating, and that you're not doom scrolling through social media. We'll figure out some ways to get you back into more self-care and not relying on self-comfort, because that doesn't actually help you. And I know that some of you, once you start an actual self-care routine, a lot of uncomfortable things might start bubbling up for you, like realizing that maybe your relationships aren't so great, or you're in the wrong job, or you're just feeling uncomfortable with your place in the world, or whatever it is. And if that's happening to you, I would love to talk with you and kind of figure it out how we can help you move through those emotions so you can make positive changes, so that you don't like numb them and stick them down so you don't have to think about them. So you actually do work through them and make some positive edits in your life. So I'm going to leave a link below this video where you can schedule a free one-on-one life editing strategy call with me. And I would love to talk to you about your self-care routine and how we can develop a plan so that you'll actually stick to it. All right, let's see. I don't see any comments coming in right now, but like I mentioned before, I do see all the comments that come in on the replay. So even if you're watching this months later, go ahead and leave a comment. I want to hear what's in your self-care routine. What types of things light you up and give you energy? So excited to see your suggestions. All right, life editors, I'm going to wrap this up. If you have a topic that you want me to cover during one of these live streams, leave a comment below and let me know. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your week and get lots and lots of self-care. And I will talk to you again real soon. Bye.